Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira, ushmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shmi ben Kish ish Yemini. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira. There was a Jewish person. Who was this Jewish person? Who was this Jew? Mordechai, who didn't come from Shevet, from the tribe of Yehuda. Rather, he came from the tribe of Binyamin. The Gemara tells us Mordechai here from his mother's side, Mordechai Tzaddik, was from Yehuda. But from his father's side, where it counts, he did not come from Yehuda. He came from Shevet Binyamin, from the tribe of Benjamin. So why is it that the Megillah, again and again, if you notice, count how many times it says, Ish Yehudi, Mordechai Yehudi, Mordechai Yehudi, Mordechai. Why do you always have to emphasize the point that Mordechai was a Jew? Why does the Megillah always have to throw it in there? Mordechai, you know which Mordechai? Yehudi, the Jew. Why do you always have to mention the Jew part? And why are you saying Ish Yehudi? There was a person that came from Shevet Yehuda, even though Mordechai was not from Shevet Yehuda, he was from Shevet Benjamin. I want to share with you a beautiful Khatam Sofer, and please take it to heart. Says a Khatam Sofer like this, and I quote you his Lashon. This is in his Drashus on Megillah Esther, Daf Kuf Samechei. He writes like this. He says, She'enenu mishevet Yehuda. We know Mordechai was not from Shevet Yehuda. There's a lot of back and forth and disputes exactly why exactly Mordechai was not from Shevet Yehuda. Some say he was, but we're going with the opinion that Mordechai was not from Shevet Yehuda. He says like this. Lama kara Mordechai atzmo Yehudi. Why did Mordechai always call himself the name Yehudi? Alpha Pishra ish Yemini from Shevet Benjamin. He came from Benjamin. Mordechai asazot kedei likvoa belev echav shelo yityeshu min geula. The reason why Mordechai Tzaddik emphasized that people give him the title Mordechai HaYehudi, Ish Yehudi, was because in the times of Achashverosh and Haman had a plan to be me'ayesh, to make the Jews forget about Yerushalayim, to make the Jews at the time that were in Galut, that were in exile, to forget about rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash, waiting for Mashiach and being part of Malchut Yehuda. Achashverosh and Haman in their evil plans wanted to take the Jews and break them apart spiritually and mentally. They wanted to totally fall apart and give up on becoming again the greatest nation in the world with the Bet HaMikdash. Jews are always great, but when we have the Bet HaMikdash and we have Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh and we have our own Melech, our own king, we're in top of the world. We always want Mashiach to come, and Jews always wanted Mashiach to come, but Achashverosh and Haman wanted to be oiker that. They wanted to uproot that idea of Jewish people always wanting Mashiach to come. So what did Achashverosh do? He made a party where all the Jews and the Goyim are now together, one big happy family, all eating together, drinking together, dancing together, schmoozing together, hanging out together. And he also brought tons of kosher food. And then Achashverosh came with big de kehuna. He was wearing the clothing of the Kohen Gadol and the Kohen in the Bet HaMikdash. Was a tremendous sin. Why did Achashverosh do that? Because he wanted to belittle the idea of Kohanim. He wanted to lower and trample the idea of having the Bet HaMikdash with the Kohanim wearing the special clothing. So he made a party with the Jews and non-Jews together in order for us to be friendly and forget our Jewish identity and forget about rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash. So Mordechai, who was the Gdol Ador, who was the leader of the Jewish people at the time, said, you know what, let me emphasize the Yehudi part, the fact that I'm Mordechai Yehudi, even though I don't come from Shevet Yehuda, we're all going to be called Yehudim after the name Yehuda. Why? Because Mashiach, don't forget, is going to be from the Shevet Yehuda. Melech HaMashiach, rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash, the kings, the whole idea of Bet HaMikdash in Yerushalayim and Jerusalem is all going to come from Yehuda, from the tribe of Yehuda. So in order for Klal Yisrael at the time not to forget where they really belong, and that is Yerushalayim, with the Bet HaMikdash, with the real Jewish identity, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the Shechina and the Bet HaMikdash, he emphasized that every single Jew, although he doesn't come from the tribe of Yehuda, should be called after Yehuda. That's where the name Yehudi comes from. And that's why he kept saying Mordechai Yehudi, Mordechai Yehudi. Even though he doesn't come from Yehuda, but he called himself, I come from the tribe of Yehuda, in order for everybody to always remember every day of their lives. We always want Yehuda, meaning we always want Mashiach, and we're always hoping to one day reach the Bet HaMikdash, to the rebuilding the Bet HaMikdash in Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael. This is a fascinating thing, Rabotai. You know why we're called Jews? Jews comes from the word Judah. In Hebrew, Yehuda, Yehudi. Why we're all called Yehudim? We all come from different tribes. Some Shimon, some Gad, some Asher, some Reuven. How come we're all named after the tribe of Yehuda? Why are we all called Yehudim? The answer is, says Khatam Sofer, we learn from Mordechai Tzaddik. Mordechai Tzaddik emphasized that when you're in Galut, you're in exile, always call yourself Yehudi, the Jew. Why Yehudi from Shevet Yehuda? To always remind you, even though you're in Galut, even though you're in exile, you're called Yehudi, meaning you want Yehuda to come back, you want Mashiach to come because you belong in the rebuilding of the Bet HaMikdash. So every time someone calls you Jew, Jewish, Yehudi, you know why you called Yehudi? Because it's reminding you your identity where you really belong. You belong with Yehuda, meaning in the city of Yerushalayim with the rebuilding of the Bet HaMikdash and the Melchut with the real kings, which represents Yehuda. That's what we're called Yehudim, and that's why the Megillah came to emphasizing Mordechai Yehudi. Mordechai was a fighter. And then the Megillah goes on and it says a tremendous thing. We know that Haman, Achashverosh made a decree that everybody has to bow down to Haman. But there was one person that did not bow down, and that was Mordechai HaTzadik. Like the Pasuk says in Megillah, ומרדכי לא אחד הדברים האלה גידל המלך אחשוורוש את המן וכל עבדי המלך אשר בשער המלך קוראים ומשתחווים להמן כי כן ציווה לו המלך ומרדכי לא יכאב ולא ישתחווה. Mordechai did not bend. Mordechai did not budge so much. By the way, the Midrash says that Haman, when he was walking into the palace, Mordechai was always standing in the entrance of the palace. Why didn't Mordechai just go home? If you don't want to bow down to Haman, why don't you just avoid the problem? Stay home, Mordechai. We call it Shev Elot Ta'aseh, just stay home. Shev Al Ta'aseh, stay home. Mordechai, you see, didn't just give in. Mordechai wasn't intimidated by the culture no matter what it is. That's what Mordechai was. Mordechai, a Yehudi. Mordechai went to the entrance of the palace so Haman can see him, not bow down to him and not give in to his intimidation. So much so, says the Midrash, that when Haman passed by, not only did Mordechai bow down to Haman, says the Midrash that Mordechai turned around his neck. He totally ignored, or as they say in Yiddish, he stolz out Haman. Mordechai went out of his way to teach Haman and show him that I'm not giving in to intimidation. Mordechai didn't run away from a situation. He didn't run away from a problem. He didn't avoid a place where he can fight for Hashem. Mordechai stood the Shara Melech and he showed Haman, I am not giving in. It is wrong to bow down to you. Who are you that I should bow down to you? And the Medrash goes on that Haman tried so many times to send messengers to Mordechai to convince him, please, please bow down to me. I'm getting so embarrassed. Now all the covet that I have, that the Pasuk says, all the covet that I have is nothing unless Mordechai is going to bow down to me. So Haman sent secret messengers to please beg Mordechai, please bow down to me. You're embarrassing me in public. And Mordechai totally ignored Haman. All this is in the Midrashim. Mordechai totally ignored Haman, and he did not bow down and did not get intimidated by Haman. That's another reason why he's called Mordechai a Yehudi. Because what defines a Jew? What defines a Yehudi? A Yehudi, a Jew, is a person that does not get intimidated by the culture of the world. A Yehudi is not a person that puts his weapons down, which is tefillah and Torah. We don't put our weapons down. We never bend for the culture of the world. We don't get intimidated by the goyim and whatever the world tells us. Jews, a Yehudi, definition of a Jew is loyalty to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A Yehudi is loyal to the Torah. A person that's loyal to Hashem in our generation. A person that keeps Shabbat, puts on tefillin, says berachot. A person that puts on tzitzit. A person that tries to do what's best in our generation is a Yehudi that defines a Jew. Any girl that dresses betzniut in our generation is Yarda Yehudiya, you are a Jew. And that's what the Megillah always said, Mordechai Yehudi. Mordechai Yehudi, to emphasize that point that even though Mordechai was able to avoid Haman, even though he was able to stay home, he went in front of his face to show him that he's not intimidated and he will fight back. And ultimately, Rabotai, Mordechai is the one that beat Haman, and Haman is the one that got killed. We see the same thing, Rabotai, by Yehuda. We see the same thing by Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef HaTzadik, although Eshet Potiphar at the time enticed him to sin, Yosef HaTzadik told her, how can I sin? I come from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. There's no way I can do it. And when Paro pulled him out of jail and told him to interpret his dream, Yosef HaTzadik always gave credit to Hashem. He told Paro, oh, I don't know how to interpret dreams. Elokim, it's Elokim. Everything is Hashem. He always talked about Hashem. Hashem was always on his tongue and his lips, like the Medrash says. Yosef HaTzadik never hid his identity as a Jew. He was proud of being a Yehudi. He always stood up for Hashem. He always mentioned him. And because although Yosef HaTzadik was in jail, in exile, with Paro, because he always mentioned God, he always mentioned Hashem. He wasn't ashamed of being Jewish. He was proud of being a Jew. He always talked about Hashem, always talked about Emunah B'tachon. He always said how Hashem runs the world. Even in front of Paro, he said it. Because of that, he was zachet to be the prince of Egypt. Mordechai also. Mordechai didn't get intimidated, not by Achashverosh, not by Haman. He fought, and he fought for the truth. He fought what's right, and he says, we are Jews. We're not going to bend down to Haman. We're not giving in. We're not selling the Torah for you. We're going to fight till our death, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to fight till death for Torah mitzvot. Mordechai ended up on top. And Rabotai, on a smaller scale, any person in their life, you never get intimidated from what's going around you. Always stand up for what's right. And even if the Yetzer Hara in your personal life tells you to calm down, give in, it's never going to happen, you're never going to grow. You have to stand up and tell the Yetzer Hara, Ani Yehudi, I'm a Jew. What do you mean I'm giving in? I would never give in. I have a Jewish neshama. So no matter what happened in the past, I'm always going to stand up strong and do the right thing and serve Hashem. So even if somebody sinned in the past, I still have an neshama Yehudit. Don't let the Yetzer Hara intimidate you. Haman, Amalek, Yetzer Hara, Satan are all together. Haman comes from Amalek. Amalek is a Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is the Nachash with Adam and Chava. The Yetzer Hara tries to pull you down and tells you, give up on Judaism. Give up Torah. It's never going to happen. Give in. Come on. Enough already. Destroy yourself. You have to tell yourself, Mordechai, Ha-Yehudi, I am a Jew. I'm going to stand up strong. I will never compromise. I'm a neshama. HaKadosh Baruch Hu always awaits for me to come back. And if you have friends around you and you're in places where they're intimidating you not to wear a yarmulke, not to put on tzitzit, don't be ashamed of yourself. Be proud what it means to be a Jew. Always stand tall. You are Yehudi. Learn from Mordechai Yehudi that when you're in exile, you should always emphasize the Jew part even more. And the reason why we're called Yehudim, even though we don't come from Shevet Yehuda, it's to remind us that we always want Yehuda to come back, meaning we want Mashiach to come back. That's what we are called Yehudim, meaning to remind yourself of Melech Yehuda, of Melech HaMashiach that would come from Yehuda. And that's what we're called Jews. Every Jew is a Jew no matter what. But make sure to bring the Jewness out of you. Bring the Yehudi out of you. Be proud of who you are. Stand up for what's right. Thank you so much for listening.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.